Thank you very much. First, let me welcome all of you to this press conference. Seated by my right is Chief Kano Agabi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, former Attorney General of Nigeria, and he is the Chairman of Board of Trustees of the Johnny Agim SCN Foundation. And on my left is Ms. Pauline Taffa. She's a member of the faculty. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, distinguished guests, I welcome you to this press conference where we are excited to announce the inaugural edition of the Legacy Dialogue, a flagship event of the Johnny Agim SCN Foundation, also known as Jasan Foundation. As a legal practitioner and an advocate for legal reform, I am passionate about building a legacy that will prepare generations of young lawyers for excellence in all our endeavors and see to it that they become institutions themselves. Jasan Foundation is committed to fostering excellence in the legal profession through mentorship, sponsorship, legal reform, and public advocacy. Our goal is to create a network of young lawyers who will drive positive change in the legal profession and the judiciary. The Legacy Dialogue is a critical step towards achieving this goal. By bringing together legal professionals, academics, and stakeholders, we aim to explore innovative approaches to mentorship and sponsorship in the legal profession. We believe that strategic sponsorship and mentorship are essential tools for professional identity formation in the legal profession, whether you are at the bar or at the bench. Over the next few days, precisely on the 13th of September 2024, at the Shehu Yaradua Conference Center by 5 p.m., we will be engaging in a series of activities, including a panel of discussion, the launch of the Jasan Foundation 1 billion naira endowment fund for sponsorship and scholarship, as well as the unveiling of our transgenerational logo. We will also be awarding full tuition scholarship to several law students preparing to go to the law school next year, who were selected through our call for applications and rigorous screening process. These students will eventually be inducted into the Legacy 500 Elite Mentorship Program after their call to bar. We invite you to join us on this journey as we work towards building a lasting legacy in the legal profession. Thank you.
In those days, growing up, legal profession used to be very appealing, something we see from a very high-up perspective about their noble character and their distinct nature. But over time, we've seen a lot of compromise on the part of lawyers, and we're wondering, what will this foundation do? Like, a case in point was the petition of the presidential election, and what we saw mostly was a vexation of the process, rather than a lot of Nigerians were expected to see some intellectual fireworks come out from that process, but we were not impressed. And anyone on the street that has some bit of idea of logic one would say would almost do better. So a lot of Nigerians were disappointed, and the fact that many lawyers also take up frivolous cases is also one thing that is not gelling with the public. So we are thinking that how this foundation is coming up with a very noble idea. How will it how will it strengthen it by connecting with those at the National Assembly to create an enabling law that would really give it a pivot in all this agenda that you're setting?
Good enough, we have no mean person sitting with us here, who himself has practiced law for over 52 years. So I'm just going to give you just an idea of what you should know. That firstly, you mentioned your question was tied into three angles. First, you talked about the presidential election, and then you talked about the issue of loss of confidence of the public in the judiciary, and you asked how this foundation can better the laws and create a better image to the public.
And enabling laws.
Okay, and helping transforming and changing the laws we already have in place. Okay, talk about the aspect of the presidential election. I'm sure I'm going to yield the floor to the chairman of the Board of Trustees to say something. But before I do that, let me quickly say that law is not what is born out of sentiment or emotions. Law is law. And if you have a case that you present in the courts, as long as whatever it is you bring does not meet with the required standard of the law, irrespective of how good your case is, be rest assured you will lose that case. Law is not based on truth, law is based on facts. And so if you don't have the required facts, mark my word, the required facts presented before the courts, not just some facts, but if you don't have the required equivalent fact to prove your case, however good your case is, you're bound to lose that case. The other aspect is the aspect of you saying, well, why are lawyers presenting frivolous cases in the courts? Don't forget that lawyers themselves don't manufacture these cases. These are cases, grievances by the public, by individuals who feel aggrieved. And then, in ventilating these grievances, they have to do that through those who are already professionals in that field, which is the lawyers. And that is why you see those cases find themselves into the courtroom. And at the end of the day, irrespective of the fact that the court says these cases are frivolous, what might be frivolous to you is the grievances of one person before now. So, as it were, the law is an axe. Sometimes what you say is frivolous, the person goes to court and he gets judgment, and you begin to wonder why. Then the critical aspect why we are here, you talked about how this foundation will be able to help in, what's the word now? Helping
in creating an enabling that will give a kind of strength to this agenda.
Okay, all right. Now, this foundation, don't forget, it's based on the legal practice, both advocacy and the judiciary, the bar and the bench, what we call the bar and the bench. So what we are coming to do is to be able to gather selected lawyers that will be mentored for a period of 10 years at the first instance. Mentor them through the training of those who themselves have been able to prove their mettle in the profession. For instance, part of what I did not say in my introduction was that this foundation will have, as part of its function, a faculty made up of judges and the advocates. The judges committee will be headed by a distinguished Nigerian who has retired from the Supreme Court. She will be chairing that committee, and under her you have other judges under her to mentor these young ones. And this is what we've not had before. And in the advocate committee, we'll have, seated by my right hand side here, our father in the profession, Chief Kano Agabi SAN, will be chairing that committee. And that committee will have other lawyers within the faculty to mentor these young ones on the ethics of the profession, of what is required of them to know from the get-go. Now, you agree with me that a man who does not have a proper foundation will miss it along the way. If you don't know where you are going to, wherever you get to will look like there. But if you come into the profession, now we set, our requirement is from 500 level. The lucky selected ones, 500 level, will sponsor them into the law school. And then from the law school, the moment they are called to bar, they are admitted into the academy. And now from the get-go, you have these highly experienced professionals, both at the bar and the bench, giving you the necessary tools you need, whether you want to become a senior advocate or you want to become a judge or you just want to become an established legal practitioner. You have these persons mentor you. You can imagine what that product will be in the long run. So this foundation, first of its kind, has come to be able to change the landscape of how we do our mentorship. What you normally will have is, if you're fortunate to work in a law firm of a senior who himself has distinguished himself, then you glean from there. But there's nothing institutionalized like what we have now to have persons admitted and then give them periodic tools that they need to succeed in their field. So there's a whole lot that this foundation is about to give to the legal profession, and we believe definitely with that, the change that we seek, we'll begin to get it as we go along.
So what happens after the law school? I'm just trying to follow up.
Okay, like I said, thank you for that question. Like I said, the plan is to get these persons mentored for minimum of 10 years. Once you're admitted into the faculty, and it's not for all comers. First, even the criteria we set for those in 500 level to qualify, because this year we are sponsoring about 10 to go to law school. And once they're admitted, once they are called to bar, they'll be admitted into the faculty. Now, as they're admitted into this faculty, you have these professionals to network with. You have these professionals to teach you. You have these professionals to ask questions, which you would not have if you were just left in the labor market to go and fend for yourself. So you'll be mentored for a minimum of 10 years, whether you want to become a judge or want to become a senior advocate, because the requirement is 10 years post-call. If you want to be applied to become a judge, you must be 10 years post-call before you're qualified. So imagine someone who is leaving law school, is already admitted into the faculty, where I don't want to use, we normally will use the word, and chief doesn't like being flattered. You have a legal juggernaut sitting by my right hand side, mentoring you and telling you, these are the nuances, this is what you know. They hold you by the hand to begin to let you know what you need to do from the get-go. So you can imagine what such a person will turn out to be in 10 years. So that is what we intend to do.
I'm highly privileged to be a part of this. Let me say to begin with that this is about being your brother's keeper. And more than at any other time in our history, we need to be our brother's keepers. People are suffering a lot today, even in the legal profession. Practitioners are very young. They come into the profession very, very young indeed. And they need guidance. They need support. They come from the rural areas into the city. They need guidance. Need support, and this initiative is as it ought to be. We need more initiatives like this. As for the presidential election, the law is what the judges say it is. The law is not what the lawyers say it is. It is what the judges say it is. Once they make a pronouncement, that's the law. And the Supreme Court has spoken, that is the law. We will never reach a point at which we are all agreed as to what the law is or ought to be, but it is more predictable. It makes for more certainty, more predictability. If you can say, well, the Supreme Court has spoken. So as to the point you raised about the presidential election, Supreme Court has spoken, and we are bound. You made the other point about lawyers taking up frivolous cases. Of course, I can't say that it is not so. Such mistakes do get made in every profession. We suffer in the hands of doctors. We suffer in the hands of teachers. We suffer in the hands of engineers. And so if you have suffered in the hands of a lawyer, it's
one of those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And in any case, as I said, we're lawyers, we're not judges. When a man comes to you and says, look, defend me, you can't dismiss him and say, look, I have no faith in your case. By doing that, you are taking upon yourself the duties of a judge. What is expected of you is go forward, present the best case you can, and let the judgment be that of the judge. Of course, you can advise. You can say, look, I think 2 + 2 is 4. You are thinking it is 5, but it's 4. There are situations like that. People have their own views. They feel strongly about them. It's not as simple as 2 plus 2 is 4. In matters of law, people differ. So when you say a case is frivolous, the other man may not see it that way. There was something else about our legal system is foreign. Essentially, that's what it is. And there is need to adapt this legal system to meet local needs. We're not doing that fast enough. We're not adapting the laws to meet local circumstances fast enough. The truth is that in a globalizing world, in a changing world, the world is changing faster than we can cope with. But we're doing well. I can tell you that. You see, people tend to think that this is a backward nation, this is a corrupt nation, we dismiss the nation as backward and corrupt and things like that. But we're doing well. We're doing very, very well indeed. And we must encourage ourselves. If we proceed from the premise that we're not doing well and discourage ourselves by branding ourselves, stigmatizing ourselves as corrupt and so forth, it doesn't help. We're doing well. Nigerians must recognize that we are doing well. Rome was not built in a day.
Very true, sir.
My question is centers on the area where you said of a legal reform. I want to ask, because I cover judiciary, and I know that one of the big problems facing a legal profession is delayed justice delivery. A lot of cases hanging before the various courts. Yes, and I also want this question to also be addressed by former AGF. Yes, because we do see him in court. Yes. So why I'm asking this is that earlier this year, the federal government, through the Office of Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, had a summit, and one of the outcomes of resolutions of this, yes, was that some cases should not have their way to Supreme Court, that they should ordinarily end at appeal court. This is not to congest the Supreme Court. So my question is, this foundation, how can it contribute, especially in the area of legal reform, in ensuring quick justice delivery, changing the problem of cases lasting for years? At times, those even pursuing the case will even die in the process. Yeah. So that is my question.
That's a very good question you've asked. I'll quickly say that, firstly, if we all sit down here and begin to speak in our individual voices, what you will hear is noise. But if we all come together and take a common position and present it, we'll be speaking with one voice, and that voice will be louder than all of us just speaking and making noise. So this foundation coming into existence, one of the things we want to do is to begin to engage both the judiciary, the legislature, and see how some of this, because the truth of the matter is that these reforms, resolutions have been made and passed over the years. But you need a body to present this to the critical stakeholders. And if you check part of our thematic areas, we are for mentorship, sponsorship, legal service, legal reforms, and public advocacy. So that is one aspect of what the work we'll be doing, to ensure that things that borders on justice delay, things that borders on cases that ought not to get to the apex court, but because the laws as they are presently allows for such, we'll begin to come out with such advocacy to encourage the critical stakeholders to begin to see how some of these laws, some of these things can be done. So basically, you speak to one aspect of what's our thematic area, which is legal service reform, and that is what we'll be doing.
You see, all these institutions, like the judiciary, they are limited institutions.
Yeah.
The police is a limited institution.
Yeah.
The EFCC, the ICPC,
Yeah.
the SSS, these are limited institutions. They are very small institutions. They are founded on the premise that the work that they will have to do will be limited. If it becomes unlimited, they cannot cope. I mean, for instance, a judge is sitting down there and on his list in one day, 40 cases. He can't cope. What happens is that that kind of situation, recurring, persisting, will tend to make him indifferent. He is human. For instance, as I sat up there in my brother Johnny's room waiting for you to come, I slept off. Why? I'm tired. I'm a human being. Judges are human beings. The police are human beings. Prosecutors are human beings. We must control ourselves. Nigerians must control themselves. We're not doing that. And that's true. You know, we have a misconception of democracy. We think that democracy means the right to do as you please. We have a misconception of politics. We think that in politics, good and bad are equal. So there's need for the nation to correct itself. You and I.
That's correct.
So that we limit the cases that go to the courts.
That's correct.
If the cases continue to be unlimited, they can't cope. They will become indifferent. Their minds become brutalized.
My name is Kosim Suleiman. My question is regarding the scholarship.
Yeah.
You mentioned that for this cohort you are sponsoring 10 students to the law school. So I want to know if you intend to continue doing 10 students annually, or perhaps there will be a change in the number of students you sponsor. And also the endowment fund, I would like to know, this is about the sustainability plan of it. Do you have organizations or individuals you are partnering with to, keep it running over time?
As at the last time I checked, this notice was sent out about 3 weeks ago. Yes, you could say maybe because the time is short. But after the second filtration stage, we couldn't get the required number that could scale through to the judges to now prune down to the 10 we want to get. So it is not enough to say we want to increase the number, because if you must provide quality, there must be standard. And we are not ready to water down our standard. So as we go along, if we get more persons who qualify, why not we increase the number? We don't have a problem with that. And that is why we are ambitious enough to set a 1 billion naira endowment fund. And of course, this year, those who will, the lucky winners for this year will get $1 million and 1 million naira sponsorship to law school, which covers your tuition and your pocket, what you call your maintenance fee for 1 year in law school.
You can also look at it from a spiritual perspective. From my experience, whatever glorifies God is sustainable.
That's correct.
Conceive of a good thing in the heart and the Lord will do it. It is sustainable. You will find that in no time at all, this foundation may be sponsoring 100 people. Why? It is about charity. It will work.
And so you talk about whether we intend to, collaboration is part of what we'll do. Presently, we're already reaching out to partners to come partner with us. And so we're ready to network with those who are willing to. And of course, I dare say, there are persons who are willing to, once they see a vehicle that they can use and that they can trust is ready to deliver on the goods. So we'll be partnering, just like we are calling the press now. After the launch, we expect that as we hold several workshops and seminars, we'll begin to roll out the plans and the things and even our partners that we'll be partnering with. So we're ready to network with those who are willing to network with us. And like Chief has said, it is something that is good. And if it is to glorify God, we believe that God will give us those who will be willing to partner with us and ensure that they help these ones who have what it takes but don't have the means to go through the rigors to become what we want them to become.
How do you intend to select the mentees? As in, what is the process of qualification?
If you have been privileged to see through or see the call for application scholarship that was sent out for the 500 level final year law students in federal and state university, that was critical and it was made specifically for students attending federal and state universities, because we believe if you have been privileged to go through the private university, and we all know what it takes to sponsor a lawyer through the private university, that requires a lot. And so the criteria for that is already there. So maybe after this event, we'll send you some of those things so you can read through themselves, because there are many. But one of them is that you must be someone who has a CGPA of not less than 2.2. What we call 2.2, second class lower. If you have a CGPA that is below that, you don't qualify. And then secondly, you must be someone who is, as it were, challenged financially to pay the fees for law school, because as at the last time we checked, the fees for law school, the tuition fee was about 470,000 naira. How many families who have struggled in training their children through the federal and state public universities can raise such funds at a go? I am a product from a very humble background where my parents had to struggle and beg to be able to put a naira and kobo together to send me through school. So yet I had what it takes to be able to compete with my peers, but we didn't have that financial requirement. So that is one of the criteria. Then for those that will be admitting after they are called to bar, there will equally be criteria that are set out by the faculty, the nomination and selection committee, that those ones we use, and those who qualify will be admitted into the faculty. Thank you.
Actually, my question is whether going forward, already existing lawyer can still benefit from this program going forward. We know we just started, but there are some that were already called this year. Since they were not able to partake in this scholarship, would they be, and they are already called, would they be able to partake next year? That's my question.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. If you check our qualification criteria is for 1 to 10 years post-call. So if you fall within that category, whether you've been called or not, as long as you meet the requirements, once those called for applications are sent out, you meet the requirements, you'll be admitted. So it's strictly for those who have been called from year 1 to year 10, while the sponsorship is for those who are still in the 500 level faculty, ready to be waiting to go into the Nigerian law school.